Austin, thank you so much for joining me today. I greatly appreciate it. For those who haven't had a pleasure of meeting you at a CertainPath event, can you share with everyone your name, your company name, and where you guys are located?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Austin Rohleder. I'm the marketing director for Integrity Home Exteriors. We're located in Toledo, Ohio, and recently up in Detroit, Michigan.
Very good, very good. We're talking because for a very good reason. Business has been good, especially the last few years. Chance to brag, kind of share with everyone how sales grown the last few years.
Yeah, so in 2019 we did about 6.8 million, and then
Uh,
we peaked last year, thanks to a little bit of storm season, at 14.5. So
yeah.
solid growth there. Then we're down a little bit this year, down to 13.
Okay. Very good. Very good. That's tough. There's no, us working in the four trades. Roofing is so unique in that regard with insurance work that you can't count on it, right? But you want to take advantage of that opportunity while it
Hmm.
exists. But I know a lot of companies have made the mistake of trying to scale too quickly and hire too much staff, and all of a sudden the next year that storm doesn't come, and then you're left with, okay, now we got to cut people. How did you avoid that from happening? I mean, you said, I think if I remember, you said before we recorded this one, what 30% of that work was insurance from a couple years ago. That's quite a bit, right?
Um, so there was 2020, like 2023 when that storm happened, and we
Yeah,
did, yeah, I would say 3 or 4 million out of
yeah,
that storm.
right, right.
Which was obviously very good. But we've always hired early, so
Mhm.
we were able to restructure a few people's jobs, and our production team did a really amazing job of putting together just all the SOPs and the processes necessary to handle insurance really better than anyone else in the city at this point.
That's
So now
great.
we're set up to handle it really well, but we never had a major storm come through like that before. So we
Right.
really kind of had to figure out in real time how to handle it all.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you have to hire a bunch of extra crews to do the installs, or were you able to
You know,
just be efficient enough to work with what you had?
yeah, I mean, we'd hire a little bit extra, but it was not that big of
Yeah.
a deal. We were
Yeah.
able to just repurpose a lot of the crews that we were already using.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. Very interesting. You mentioned, you guys have expanded into Detroit, which
Mhm.
I again, I we talked earlier. I didn't realize till I whipped out Google Maps just how close Detroit is to Toledo. It's only
Mhm.
what an hour and some change away, so
Mhm.
that's not too bad. How's that experience been? I guess staff wise, you guys that mostly in Toledo, but I think you said that was going to change in the future, right?
Yeah, yeah, we're 99% in Toledo.
Yeah.
With everything, we just have our canvassing team up in Detroit, and then we have some production crews that really kind of go in and out, but no one's based out of
Right.
Detroit yet.
Right.
Depending upon how next year goes, we might hire some production staff from there.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but the growth has been pretty slow up there. Our goal is
Yeah.
to grow through canvassing. Our
Right.
goal is not to dump what would need to be probably 750 grand into branding in
Right.
order to really get that done. But from a marketing perspective, any branding efforts I do have are really focused on Farmington Hills, which is
Yeah.
where our base is located. So
Yeah.
really starting small there. We made the initial mistake based off of advice from our TV agency, and we were doing TV for the whole area of Detroit, and that was a nightmare and went terrible.
Right. 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 Hard lessons learned, but that's life,
Oh yeah,
right? That's
yeah.
right. But the important part is you pivoted quickly. You didn't go, okay, let's
Mhm.
keep stubbing our toe, which I think is a great lesson
Yeah,
for
no, it was
everyone.
within 5 to 6 months that we were like, "Yeah, this is not tenable," and pulled
Yeah.
out of it.
Well, and you know what? 5 to 6 months is pretty reasonable for a marketing, especially with traditional media. We got to go. I know it's hard we hear it all the time. Contractors are go, well, I ran this campaign for a month and then I pulled out. Well, it's like that.
Mhm.
It's not enough to know.
Oh, yeah, no.
5 to 6 months, though, if it's not working.
Yeah, and when we were able to dig into the numbers, we just knew we weren't getting the frequency needed for the
Right.
average homeowner, that our spend realistically should have been much, much higher for the area that we were targeting,
Right.
and, I think the return was over 200%, or I
Yeah.
should say the cost was.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we knew, like, hey, if traditional TV for us is gonna be between 25 to 30% in our regular market, okay, I'll accept, as terrible as it might sound to most members listening to this, like I'll accept 40 to 50% for a
Yeah.
while. for the
Right.
sake of building the brand. But when you're not even close to 50% cost, well, then there's a lot of things going wrong here.
Yeah. Yeah. No, those are good nuggets. I want to dig more into TV in a little bit. I don't want to get too down that path just yet. But I always love sharing people's stories. I think so much can be learned from that. And you have a heck of a background, a very unique background, because you didn't come out of business school with a marketing background and all that. You kind of went right into work right away. So kind of share with everyone your journey to where you are today.
Yeah. Yeah. So my first job's ever worth a cook. It was the only thing that I knew I could do that someone would pay me money for. So it's like, all right, we'll do that.
There you go.
Then I saw the amount of stress that chefs have and the cars that they drove. And I was like, well, that life kind of seems like it sucks unless you're a sous chef for a 5-star hotel.
Yeah.
So then I went into business school, really not knowing what I would want to do.
Yeah.
And I was still cooking at the time. And then I got a job at just a door-to-door firm, AT&T, knocking doors for them.
Yeah.
Like TV,
Yeah.
internet, home phone, that kind of thing. Because I knew nobody hired anybody with a degree but no experience. So I started with them, and then I was interacting with that team, and they were actually like really goal-oriented people and really driving. And I was like, I think I found like my long-lost group of people that I can call home. And they ended up expanding down into Columbus, so I moved down there with them, and then grew a little bit with that company, but ultimately wasn't a great long-term fit. So I moved back home, and then eventually I was hired by Integrity to restart their door-to-door division.
Yeah. Yeah, very good. And then from there, you just kind of added responsibilities over the years, and now kind of share with everyone the functions that you manage.
Think about the best thing you've learned on this podcast, or any podcast ever. Now, on a scale of 1 to 10, how life-changing was it? Did it change whether you could take vacations or where you vacation? Did it change how much time you spend with your family or what you could provide for your family? Now, I'm not saying learning new things that make a smaller impact isn't helpful. Of course it's helpful. So is hearing from people who've been in your shoes and who know what you're going through. It's why we made this podcast. And we hope you get new insights, tips, and techniques from it, as well as encouragement. But if you're looking for a truly life-changing transformation, then information alone isn't going to do it. You need a coach. I'm Rebecca Castle, CEO of CertainPath, and I know you need a coach because I needed one when I was in your shoes, running a home service business where I was the CEO, the head trainer, the ops manager, the salesperson, the call taker, and everything else. That's why I'm certain that knowledge isn't enough, because I'd been a coach to home contractors before starting my company. I knew all the stuff, the right things to do, the procedures and strategies, and I still needed a coach. Fortunately, I had one, so I was able to grow that tiny HVAC company large enough to sell it for life-changing money. And since coming back to what was then SGI and coaching other home service businesses through that same life-changing journey, I know what's possible when you're given the tools and a coach and a community. But you don't have to take my word for it. I'll prove it to you. If you've got 90 minutes, I have a free virtual starter session that'll beat any podcast or seminar you've ever taken for delivering truly transformative content. It's free, no commitment. We just want to share with you 4 major things that we do think are the first steps to transforming your business. And all you have to do is go to mycertainpath.com and book a starter session. Because as helpful as our podcasts are, I'm betting you're going to find our starter sessions to be the best first steps you can take towards true transformation.
So as our marketing director, I handle, really everything that makes the phone ring, as well as our recruiting.
Right.
So our call center, obviously our TV agencies, our SEO, social media, the aggregate management used to be the Canvas teams.
Right.
Yeah, all that.
That's exciting. And you guys have a very unique structure in that the owner of the business isn't actually in the day-to-day anymore, right? Kind of share with everyone how that works out.
Yeah. The guy, Adam, who owns the company, and Brandon, the person who used to be our marketing director, they both moved with their families over to Ireland for full-time missions work. So they, along with some other people, have started a church over there, and that's going well, and they're starting some other businesses there as well.
That's incredible. That's really unique. And then, so there's really, there's three of you that are the senior leadership for integrity right now. Go ahead and share your other cohorts. Let's be sure to shout them out.
Yeah. We have Joe Altman, who's our sales director, and he's taken over our canvassing departments. And he's done really well at it. And then Caleb Dudley, who's been with the company for about 20 years now, close.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
16. And he runs all of our production. Then we have someone else who will be joining our leadership team, which I can't quite announce yet.
Oh, okay. Stay tuned, everybody.
Up in January.
Oh, that's exciting. Very cool. Mm-hmm. Very cool. Now, how often do you guys all communicate about, the direction of the business shifting, direction, moving things around? Because business constantly changes it. So how frequently do you guys communicate, meet?
Yeah. We have biweekly leadership meetings. Okay. And then each one of the members of our leadership team has a weekly one-on-one with the owner.
Okay, that's great. So you guys are in constant communication. He knows what's going on. He's putting his 2 cents in. It's not like he's completely out of the picture. So
100%. He's definitely very involved in driving the vision. And it's a lot of us just implementing that.
Yeah, that's great. That's neat. That's exciting for a lot of other, business owners to hear that you can, if you find the right people and you get the right processes in place, you can have a setup like that and chase other ambitions. Mm-hmm. So very cool. Yeah. I want to get into your function a lot with marketing and even though you gave up the canvassing function, I think that's fascinating. We're going to get into that a bit. Just kind of always like to set the stage first. In terms of marketing, your spend, because this is a hot topic. A lot of people, when they just join us, they can't believe how much you should be spending on marketing, because most of them, especially if they're small guys, they're like, oh, I'm spending not much at all. So what do you guys typically budget for? Like in 2025, which will be here in a minute, what are you guys thinking you'll spend marketing wise?
In 2025, I'm thinking it's going to be about 13 or 14% cost.
Right. Which is aggressive. So yeah, because that's
and it wouldn't be that high if we weren't expanding up into Detroit.
Right.
But when you're greenfield in a new market, the only ways to go about that are expensive.
Yeah, that's right. No, and that totally makes sense. And that includes your canvassing department too. That's not just traditional online and meet other media like that. So, and then what is your mix? Kind of what percentage is canvassing of that marketing budget, and then some of the other, online and traditional media? What's the kind of breakdown?
Yeah, so we're projecting a minimum of $14.3 million in revenue next year. Canvassing is $4 million of that. TV will be 1.3, so about 10%. Another 10% will come from pay-per-click.
Yeah.
And then we're now doing things like job site mailers. We do giveaways on the radio. Get about 8% of our revenue just from the amount of yard signs and people recognizing our truck wraps.
And that's something
big and bright yellow.
People go, it's, again, smaller guys or people that are just used to work. They go, brand and wrapping, and so, it's wild how much of a return that little bit, brings.
Yeah, if somebody was going to only do one thing, I would wrap the vehicle.
Yeah.
Not like one thing on the door, like you wrap the entire vehicle in a relatively bold and distinct pattern. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, and you guys have a great brand. I mean, you can see it online. You can tell, put a lot of attention to detail in getting that wrap done right. How long have you had that, by the way? Has it been a while?
Yeah, I think beginning of 2019, end of 2018, I think, is when those wraps were put on. And believe it or not, even though it's done well for us, we're not, it's almost never good enough. So we're actually going through a brand update right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, that has to happen. I don't know any successful contracting company I can think of that doesn't do that. I mean, I can think of our big players. A lot of them have recently done that. You just have to stay fresh. I mean, you don't want to overhaul everything like every few years, but you don't want to look stale, right?
Yeah, 100%. You don't want to kind of disenfranchise your current customer to where your brand is unrecognizable at all. But absolutely staying fresh and staying modern is important.
Yeah. So how did that work? Did you, who are you working with to reevaluate your brand? Kind of what were your goals? Kind of talk about that process, because there's a lot of people that think we gained some nuggets from that.
Yeah. The agency we're working with, they're called Pedestrian. They're based out of Canada. They came from a mutual friend of another coaching group that we're a part of.
Okay.
And what our goals coming out of it were, the main one was not only visual, but it was also our brand voice. So a lot of the advertising that we have right now, while it's been effective, it hasn't really done a good job of differentiating us in the market.
Right.
It's been, like I said, very good for return on investment, but it wasn't really like telling the story of who integrity is. Yeah. And I've always said that if the homeowners in our area knew the people in our building, they wouldn't call anybody else. Like, we would be the de facto choice. Right. So it's really like, okay, how do we tell that story accurately, concisely, in a way that really kind of drives it home for a homeowner?
Yeah. Yeah. How did you, so the agency was recommended to you. Did you compare them to anybody else, or you just said, hey, we got good work?
Oh yeah. No, word of mouth. Yeah, we compared them to a few other people. Yeah. I can't remember the name of the agency that Noel runs, but we also looked at KickCharge, which is a fantastic visual branding company. I follow their owner on Facebook, and they're in a few different groups. They do great work.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, but they outside of them, we talked with a few people related to brand voice, but we ultimately settled with pedestrian.
Yeah. What was the determining factor? Just the field? Just again, for people that want to go through this process, any little nuggets that might help them?
Yeah. So it was a few things. One, certainly culture fit. Like the guy who runs the agency, he could work with our company, like for our company. It was a very natural hand in glove fit. Obviously, we assessed the talent and their proposals, and the other thing was cost. A lot of rebranding agencies, you can spend $150,000 real quick.
Right.
And that was just not what we were looking to do. Sure. Our goal was to find someone who had the expertise and was small enough that, one, like, they would really care about having our account, right? Like, it wasn't just another project.
Right.
But they would really dive into it, get invested and excited about it. Yeah. And it would not cost us a gigantic chunk of my budget.
Yeah. So what all are they going to be? They're working on the wraps as well, in addition to the messaging and video, in video, or what all are they tasks?
Yeah. So we started from the very beginning for marketing. The first thing we ever did was we really looked at our messaging.
Yeah.
So we looked at, they sat down for hours with us, with each individual leadership team member and kind of us as a group. And they really figured out, hey, who is integrity? What is the soul of integrity? And from that, they built out the messaging and what that will look like. And then we worked on the visual side. So obviously right now we're finishing up the logos and things like that, which is just a refresh, not a complete rebrand.
Right.
And then the thing that we're really working on right now is we're analyzing our customer journey. So we're looking at everything from how people hear about us to all the way to down the line to being repeat customers.
Yeah.
And we looked at every single possible interaction a homeowner has with us. And then they gave a grade to each one of those. And we're like, hey, where are the most impactful places where we can, one, drive revenue, but also just improve? So that by the end of this, we're going to have an unmatched customer experience, at least in our market.
That's fascinating. Where, so they graded it based on their opinion of how you guys do.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So, okay, I got to ask, where did they feel like you really needed help? Where were you weakest at?
So it was the original reasons that we were coming to them, which was on my end for the marketing, the advertising, having a partner that can really kind of help with that more unique messaging.
Yeah. Very fast. Yeah, because I think when we talked previously, a lot of the message, you wanted not only to try and differentiate who you guys are, but also the process with which you do your work, right? You'd use different materials than a lot of typical contractors. And everyone wants to say quality, right? But quality means nothing. You have to be more descriptive. Is that are you guys going down that path as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the path that we go down in the home for sales. When we sit down with a homeowner, all we do is educate them on what roofing is and each of the parts and pieces, and why you should care if your contractor uses ring shank nails, why you should care about the quality of the shingle, what the underlayment is, if they're using a drip edge extension, the whole nine. And by the end of it, you go, oh crap, all this stuff really does matter. I should pay more for my roof.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fascinating. That's great.
So it's just explaining all of that.
No, that's fine.
In our marketing as well. It's just really kind of extending that message where, you can't get that specific for the most part, but kind of just carrying that same ethos and idea.
That's great. So how many, I'll get into that a little bit later when we get more into the TV. Otherwise, we'll get too off topic, even though I want to dig in. But I want to talk more structurally. So we talked about brand. We've talked about what percentage you dedicate to marketing. I want to talk about your marketing team. And obviously the agency is part of the team, the marketing team, but you also have other individuals that work internally for you that handle marketing. First of all, you have an SEO manager, correct?
Yep.
And this person, though, is not on site, though, at the business.
Nope, they're a virtual assistant based in the Philippines.
Yeah, that's wild. So how did you decide to make that change? How did you find this service? I'm kind of fascinated by that.
Yeah, so this was recommended to us by somebody who asked. There was such an advantage to them that they have 5 people that were working out of the Philippines for them through the service that they were like, hey, don't share this with a bunch of mortgage companies. So hopefully there's not a bunch of mortgage companies in my area that are listening to this podcast. I think we'll be fine.
I think it'll be all right.
But yeah, the service is it used to be called Shepherd. Now it's called somewhere.com. And you basically tell them what you're looking for. And then they go ahead and they do a lot of their recruiting and they find a virtual assistant that matches what you have or what you're looking for. And then you do 2 to 3 final interviews and pick who you have. And then they have a 6-month guarantee on top of it. Really? So between the SEO manager and my social media manager, who's also based out of the Philippines, we've been able to add members to the team where I just wouldn't have been able to before. Yeah. Or you'd be paying the same money to an agency, but that agency is working 5 hours a week on your account compared to a VA that's working 40 or 45.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's great. So how often are you meeting with these people? Is it just again, is it virtual, or is it just through email? Or for people that are kind of new to this, kind of share how that works?
Yeah, I meet with them every week, and with my SEO manager sometimes twice a week.
Yeah,
and then we communicate through WhatsApp a lot. But when you meet weekly, you can have a really good beat, obviously, on the work that we're doing, and a lot of things get done through Google Sheets, your Google Drive, so it's relatively seamless.
Right. And then the production's been there, right? None of this matters if you're not getting any leads from this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Great. Okay, so that's SEO. You mentioned the social media. What social media for you guys has primarily been a branding medium, correct? Okay, very good. And then I think you guys, what's your kind of expectations? How many posts do you guys do? Is it video? Is it just still imagery? What's kind of your philosophy on social?
Yep. So we have, I would say, about 4 to 5 posts a week, minimum every other day, depending upon just the seasonality and what kind of content that we have. We absolutely would love to do, frankly, more video than we have right now. I just found a videographer that I'm happy with and does really good work. Funny enough, he actually came from my church.
Yeah.
But so now we'll be able to go out and get a lot of content. We have a ton of that planned for 2025.
That's exciting.
But our goal with social is to do a few things. One, obviously provide value to homeowners and looking for people who are looking to see if we're the experts and we really know what we're talking about. We also want to entertain within reason. And then we also just want to celebrate our team.
Yeah, that's exciting. So this videographer, is he or she a full-time staff member or kind of a contract basis?
Contract. Yep.
Contract. That's great. And then what do you envision he or she doing? Just going to job sites and kind of supervising that, or not supervising it, but this is the process, right? And then maybe doing videos with team members, so you get that personality again. You get to see, like you said earlier, if people only knew the quality of people we had, it would, everyone would pick us. So maybe talk about the types of video you're hoping they'll capture.
Yeah, there's a few things. So one, we definitely are going to have once every other month, a feature project like you're talking about. So whether it's a really nice home or a really extensive build out that we're doing, they'll absolutely go to the job site, and we'll have that on-site manager kind of explaining what's going on, as well as just filming the work itself. And then we'll also be doing 3 giveaways on the radio this year.
Oh, cool.
Which we've done over the past few years where, hey, 15K home remodel giveaway, things like that.
Yeah.
So we just went out and filmed one that we just did. A homeowner had a back door installed, as well as like a door with like a really big doggy door. This thing was huge. It's the largest that Previa offers. They've got like a great mastiffs and whatnot. And then they got a few windows with their 15K as well. So he went out and, like I said, interviewed the project manager. And then we also sat down and made an interview with the homeowner.
Okay.
And it was very professionally done. And so we're able to garner a lot of testimonials that way. So that's the first one of these we did. I'm very happy with the results.
That's great.
And not that he flies all around the country, but Boyer's Media, that's the name of the videographer. And he does really good work.
You know, I've hired videographers before. I've hired a lot of I have a lot of still photographers. It's not easy to know who's going to do. You can look at what they do, but still you got to have that relation. You know, you got to, do I trust this person? And it's like, I mean, I can remember price point would be all over the board, and it's not plug and play. So anyone that would want to do that, and obviously the whole world is moving, you know, we're in a video age more than ever, and more contractors are going to it. So if anyone looks to do that, take your time. Don't just hire someone and think anyone with a camera can figure it out. You know, I think that's a good lesson.
You would think it's not that hard, but I have ran through photographers. Like a good photographer is hard to find. And like you said, the price has no indication of quality. Zero.
Not at all. Not at all. It's, in fact, I think doing what I do and telling people to raise their prices for 20 years, I've told photographers, I was like, look, you do really good work. You need to charge more. You're going to be working for somebody else or doing something else, you know, and anyways, it's fascinating. I always found that very interesting. All right, good stuff. So, and then I don't want to dig too deep in it, but you mentioned the other part of the marketing team. Well, you've kind of handed it off, right? Is the canvassing part of the business, and just from a high level, what does that team look like? Kind of what the positions are, and then in a minute we'll dig into that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got 2 teams, one in Toledo and one in Detroit. The one down here in Toledo, like I said, that's been around since I started in 2019. Right. The one in Detroit has been there since the very beginning of 22 or 23.
Okay.
Hard to remember at this point. Every year feels like 10, if you know what I mean. But so we have just the manager and then those the individual canvassers. So we actually made adjustments to our model, which we talked about obviously recently. So now what we have is basically 2 people, canvassers going out in an individual branded truck, and they're going to their routes that they're knocking on a day. And their goal is to just get inspections for homeowners.
Right.
So
right.
They're knocking on the door, just giving them a free inspection, and then just going over the photos. And if it makes sense, flipping that over to the sales team.
Right. And then you have like a field coordinator that kind of drives a team of canvassers around, right? Is that accurate?
So we used to.
So that's changed.
And that would be where you have, say, like your field coordinator, then you have like 10 canvassers like in a van, like that traditional model. But now it is, so we raised the pay for the individual canvassers, and we have just 2 people that are, our goal is to move them into sales eventually, but just 2 people per truck. We have 4 Mavericks that are all wrapped, and they've got 2 ladder racks on top, and then they're going out into the neighborhood.
That is, I mean, it makes total sense. If you can sell the sales appointment, you can ultimately become a salesperson. You know, you can see how their production is in that, right? So that makes total sense. So who handles in like the permitting and making sure you're not going to get the cops called on you 3 times a day? Because I know I didn't think about that until we had talked previously, but obviously that's a big component of it.
Yeah. So we have a guy named Trevor. He's been in our canvassing department since 2020, and really funny time to start canvassing, by the way. But he's been with the department since then. Yeah. And he was helping us with managing our Detroit location as well last year. And now his job is full on support. So he's doing all of the interviewing, the onboarding classes. He handles the permitting, the mapping, all that stuff.
That's fascinating. That's good for people to know. That's great. I don't want to leave out some other parts of your team. So let's talk about those real quick. You handle the call center, which is interesting. So what's the call center look like? What's your call center team look like?
Yeah, so we've got a call center manager, and then we have 2 people who do strictly outbound setting. They're just dialing through leads all day. And then 3 people who handle 3 to 4 at a given time of the year who handle our inbound phone calls.
Okay. On the outbound calls, is it just who are they calling? Is it just people that you knocked on before, maybe did a presentation before but didn't close? Maybe kind of walk us through that.
Yep. So we have a kind of a call tiered system where they get everything from, hey, someone just submitted a form on Angie's List.
Got it.
Which would be an immediate lead that goes right to the top of their queue to call. Our goal is to get to that lead within 2 minutes of that form being submitted. And then once they work through all of the brand new leads and then all of the leads that are, say, 2 to 10 days old, then it gets into a lot of the older stuff where we're reworking, whether it's past customers or past inquiries, all canceled appointments, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yep. Very good. Very good. And then you also manage the recruiting function, which is a big thing. It's not as new, but when I know when we introduced it to the group, it's probably been 10 years ago now. It was very odd, right? But it's, if you don't have someone managing that function, that means all the managers are stuck doing it. And as a result, typically they would not make time for it, or you get not as great a quality candidates. So maybe talk about what that individual does for you.
Yeah. So going into 2022, recruiting was our number one sore spot as a business.
Yeah.
Whether it was consistently recruiting great salespeople or on the production end, it was a nightmare. Yeah. On the canvassing, as the canvassing manager, I had to be a professional recruiter. I had to learn that process A to Z, or else your department just won't survive.
Sure.
But so what he does now is he does all of the sourcing for the candidates. He does the qualifying. He does the initial reach outs. He keeps candidates basically on the hook, making sure that they're still interested, maintaining all of those relationships, finding sub crews for all the work. There's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. I mean, and it makes life easier on everybody. And,
Oh, yeah. I mean, your production managers, we all love them. They're not interviewers, for the most part.
Yeah, right. It's
our guys are great
mentality.
Yeah, and it's a whole different trait that our goal is as much as you can keep somebody doing the very specific thing that you're paying them to do and that they excel at, the better. And the more that you pull them out of that to do something totally in left field, the more just headache you're going to have for everybody.
That's great you brought that up, because it makes. I want to make this point that as you scale as a business, we always say, you got to take more hats off. And which hats functions of your business. And if you're stuck doing 3 or 4 different things and you just stay in that, you'll never grow. You're right. Find people that are good at it, learn how to price your services in a way that makes sense, so you can support that function. And then, shockingly, everyone has more time to be more productive and the business grows. So that's such a big part of management that I think a lot of people forget about. I can't afford that. Or, you know what? It's amazing what you can afford when you get rid of this task that you don't want to do, and all of a sudden the business grows and you can't make it.
Yeah, it was a leap when we hired. We're do we really want to put that in the budget? And we're it is our number one need. We would feel dumb to not dedicate the money to it. And I think we were only doing about 10 million at the time. And we still don't know any other $10-15 million business that has a full-time recruiter, and they're missing out.
Yeah, no, for sure. So just to pursue that, and I don't want to get too personal for the person, but in terms of compensation, how are they compensated, in terms to drive, make sure they're bringing in good people constantly, that kind of thing?
Sure. Yeah, he is 90% base, and then maybe about 10 or 15% commission.
Okay. Very good. Very good. All right. Let's shift back into the old marketing function, because that's the fun thing I wanted to talk about today. The not so fun thing for a lot of people is talking about marketing planning. I know when we spoke originally a few months ago, you were starting that process. I guess you're set for 25 and what you're hoping to do, and very good. When you sit down to look at your marketing plan and kind of map out the following year, what's your process for it? How long does it take you to do? Do you kind of remove yourself from the office for a day? I mean, how do you handle it?
Yeah. So to start, I have to give a shout out to our IT team. They are amazing. The reporting that they build out is reporting that you only find in companies 3 or 4 times our size.
Yeah.
So without them, I wouldn't be able to do the level of reporting and data digging in that we have. Because of that, we've got really good reporting going back to 2020, 2019, when I started. So I can look at the trends for every source that we have over the past few years and really look at, okay, like, hey, obviously, how is it growing? How is it declining? Do we really think we have any levers we can adjust on that source?
Right.
Whether it's Angie's List and optimizations that we make there.
Yeah.
Like one of the things that actually will be a big deal going into next year, when I visited Rich Top Exteriors, a contractor up in Madison, Wisconsin, they were getting better returns than I was on Angie's List. I really couldn't figure out why. And my returns are still good, 15% cost of marketing, but they were like 8. Yeah. I was like, 8's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And the only thing that I could see they distinctly did different was they had a particular kind of reporting put together by a company called Think Unlimited that they were able to look at the specific ROI by product, by zip code. And I asked them, because we knew like which our target markets are and things like that, our target counties. But I asked them because like when I looked at the map of where they were buying leads, it looked pretty random, to be honest.
Yeah.
And it was like, how did you guys come up with this? Is this like the most affluent neighborhoods or yada, yada? Yeah. And they said, no, like this is just where we get the best return. And then, they're just like, we just go with the, frankly, like what the data says. Like I dug in, asked a few more questions. They're like, nope, this is just what's performing. And it just goes to show like, you just don't know what you don't know when it comes to each medium and how each platform connects with each community. And so that's an adjustment that we made going into next year for all the places that we buy leads from. I was really surprised by the results.
Yeah.
So that's an adjustment that we made. And I think I'll get a lot more from Angie's List in the coming year than I even did this year. Yeah. So obviously we look at that. That's just a good example of, hey, where do we think we can really kind of move the needle? And you're just looking at the past few years of data. And then the most important thing is to, what a lot of businesses go wrong with is they say like, hey, I want to do 10 million next year. Marketing guy, how do you get me 10 million? And the marketing guy goes like, I don't know. Okay, we'll move some numbers around. Maybe you get a few extra $100,000 out of that. Who knows? But you told me to find 10 million, so I'll go find it. So in the reverse, what Adam and I do is we trend out each individual source. For like, hey, what is our realistic minimum that we can commit to? And then, hey, where is like the stretch of like, if everything goes right, where it can go? So we end up with about 2 to 3 projections. And then we do that for each individual source. And then we see what that comes with at the end.
Okay. Very good. When you were digging in, you mentioned this contractor in Wisconsin, and did it affect more than your Angie's List? Did it affect how you targeted other types of online marketing, or was it primarily just our home?
Not on the targeting side. No more adjustments there. One of the other things we were immediately able to implement was a company called Job Site Mailings, where they handle every door direct mail for just around every job that you do. Which is something like we obviously knew existed, but I don't know what the return of it was.
Right.
And that Rich Top, they'll do about 70 million this year, and 12% of their revenue is coming from these job site mailers.
Is that right? What's the mailer? That is significant. What's the mailer? What's it look like? What's it promoting?
Yeah, so it's very simple, purposefully. It's kind of that trendy, like looks handwritten type of mailer. And like it has a call to action on there, but it's not very big blanded. It's meant to look very non-produced.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool. All right. Let's dig in a little bit of each marketing tactic you guys utilize.
Think about the best thing you've learned on this podcast, or any podcast ever. Now, on a scale of 1 to 10, how life-changing was it? Did it change whether you could take vacations or where you vacation? Did it change how much time you spend with your family or what you could provide for your family? Now, I'm not saying learning new things that make a smaller impact isn't helpful. Of course it's helpful. So is hearing from people who've been in your shoes and who know what you're going through. It's why we made this podcast. And we hope you get new insights, tips, and techniques from it, as well as encouragement. But if you're looking for a truly life-changing transformation, then information alone isn't going to do it. You need a coach. I'm Rebecca Castle, CEO of CertainPath, and I know you need a coach because I needed one when I was in your shoes, running a home service business where I was the CEO, the head trainer, the ops manager, the salesperson, the call taker, and everything else. That's why I'm certain that knowledge isn't enough, because I'd been a coach to home contractors before starting my company. I knew all the stuff, the right things to do, the procedures and strategies, and I still needed a coach. Fortunately, I had one, so I was able to grow that tiny HVAC company large enough to sell it for life-changing money. And since coming back to what was then SGI and coaching other home service businesses through that same life-changing journey, I know what's possible when you're given the tools and a coach and a community. But you don't have to take my word for it. I'll prove it to you. If you've got 90 minutes, I have a free virtual starter session that'll beat any podcast or seminar you've ever taken for delivering truly transformative content. It's free, no commitment. We just want to share with you 4 major things that we do think are the first steps to transforming your business. And all you have to do is go to mycertainpath.com and book a starter session. Because as helpful as our podcasts are, I'm betting you're going to find our starter sessions to be the best first steps you can take towards true transformation.
And obviously canvassing is your big one, even though that's not necessarily under your roof anymore. But I think you mentioned to me, you guys, what you're projecting you'll do about $5 million from canvassing in 25.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
wow.
Our very conservative projection is a minimum of 4, and then all the way up to potentially 6 or 7.
Okay. And you said you've got the 2 teams, one in each market, the canvassing team there. How do you, for people, and let's kind of, soup to nuts, let's cover everything. How do you decide where the team is knocking on any individual day?
Yep. So we always want to be planning about 90 days ahead of time for territory. Okay. You never want to get caught with your pants down, and you've got guys who are ready to go knock doors, and you don't have an area for them to knock in with permits. Right. So we always want to be that far ahead. So I'm starting with one, hey, where can we get permits? Right. Every state's a little bit different. For us, the vast majority of areas we have to have permits for. Some of them are very, very easy to get, and some of them you need to give them your kidney. So you have to really kind of plan accordingly for that.
Yeah.
So now let's say, okay, you've got your areas, you're scheduling ahead of time, you have your permits. Then we're looking at what type of areas you're going into and the time of day. So if I'm earlier in the day, I want to go towards more affluent, larger homes because it's more likely, obviously, to have older people who are our target market. We're looking at people ages about 40 to 65, and they're more likely to either work from home, be retired, or just not be working full time. So you're more likely to just get more contacts and talk to more decision makers during that time of day. And then if I'm going towards a little bit more towards the lower middle income, more 9 to 5, I'm not going to those areas until much, much later in the day.
Yeah. So how long will a canvassing team, what's their typical day like? Like what time? They start at this time and they're done. Because if you run those later evenings, they're starting later.
Yep, from Monday through Friday, they are 11 to 7:30.
Okay, all right, very good. And then I think you even broke it down when we talked earlier, like the you kind of look at 250 to 550. Is that typical? That's that group of people that is home during the day, right? And anything below home values of 250 is typically in the evening, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. And then how do you know what neighborhoods, how do you decide, okay, these 7 blocks, these 20, how do you break it up?
Yeah, so a lot of it when if you just zoom out on your city on Google Maps, you can actually tell pretty easily where the affluent neighborhoods are and what looks more inner city, right? If I'm looking at a map and I see grids, I know, like you've got houses smashed together as closely as possible. That's
Yeah.
an area that's going to be a little bit lower income versus you have like large, windy roads or very clearly like set aside developments.
Right.
Those are
Right.
absolutely going to be more affluent areas 100%
Right.
of the time.
Right. And then the canvassers, you guys use some kind of a software, so they know what
Mhm.
homes they're knocking on. Kind of explain how they know. How do you upload that information into it? How does that all work?
Yep. So we use Sales Rabbit,
Yeah.
and we can map their territory, literally just like draw it and then assign it to them.
Okay.
And then so when they pull up, hey, my areas for the day, like boop, it pops right up.
Yeah. Yeah. And how often will you knock a designated territory? Because you don't want to overdo it, right? And then irritate the
Hmm.
whole neighborhood, right? So
Yeah,
what's your
absolutely.
typical? Hmm.
So in a given day, a canvasser is going to have 2 laps of about 40 or 50 doors. And
Okay.
then after we talk to somebody, we're not going to go back for 90 to 120 days.
Okay. All right. That's a good nugget because again, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
quick way to make people mad is if you show up every. In fact, it's funny you said did work with AT&T. I've had AT&T's been at my door about every other day. I feel like for the last because we've got the new fiber or whatever, and I'm like, buddy, okay, I appreciate what you're doing, but
Yeah,
you can overdo it. The bottom line, you can overdo
100%.
it.
And yeah, a lot of companies and organizations really don't get that. A lot of the more old school, traditional, just like nose to the grindstone and like just turnover like you wouldn't believe. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they can absolutely overdo it.
Yeah, for sure. Now, what information do the canvassers have? Because you don't want to give them too much, right? But you want to
Yeah,
give
they
them a
have
little bit.
almost nothing.
Yeah, right. But they know if it's a
They,
previous customer, right?
yep. So we save a few things,
Yeah.
because our canvassers will mark if this is a renter. Obviously, if it's an existing customer, that's already pre-uploaded from our IT team. Also, for doors that do not knock for a variety
Mhm.
of reasons, we keep
Right.
all those things up.
Yeah. Okay. And then let's kind of dig into the process. So you've given them what they're, I guess they come in the shop every morning or
Mhm.
so, and they get
Um, I think now they meet twice a week.
okay. All right. So they
But they
start
do actually have to come to the shop to get the trucks and then head out. But they've got a
right.
formal meeting that's about an hour, about twice a week.
Okay. All right. And so from that, they know where they're going. They
Hmm.
know their scripting, which I'm going to hold on to that for people coming to Expo soon. Hopefully,
Fair enough.
Austin will be digging more into this for us. But so from that point, their goal is to what? They want to set an appointment for a salesperson.
Yep. So their primary objective is I just want to get an inspection.
Right.
Like I don't want to prejudge the home. I don't want to prejudge the roof, the siding, the windows. Just talk to a homeowner, get an inspection, go from there. But then
Right.
absolutely, if they find that there's need, the goal is to flip that to the sales team for an appointment.
Right. Right. And then the inspection. What all will they inspect? Maybe let's talk about that.
Yep. So there's going to be a 21-point roof inspection where they're looking at everything, obviously from the soffits, the drip edge, the gutters, the downspouts, all of the flashing, the shingle quality, the ventilation, all of that.
Yeah, and they're capturing video,
Pictures.
still
Yep.
imagery, pictures. Okay,
Yeah. Video if relevant, but I think they do like 99% photos.
okay. And then how long is typically an interaction? Me say you come knocking on my house. How long should I expect you to be here?
At the very longest, I think about 45 minutes.
Okay, all
Um,
right.
which would be obviously if we're knocking on the door, having say a 5 to 10 minute conversation initially with the
Yeah.
customer, which would be long, but maximum. And then you go do that inspection. That inspection could take 25 minutes. And then you're going down and explaining with the photos and talking with the homeowner.
Right, right. Okay. Now, I do want to talk about you changed the process, I guess, about 6 months ago from when we first spoke. Because before it was like a three-prong process. You had canvassers that set
Hmm.
kind of a lead for an inspector, and then an inspector
Hmm.
would flip that to a salesperson. Now you've kind of cut it
Hmm.
down to two.
Hmm.
Maybe explain why you decided to do that for people that again want to do this on their own and go, well, maybe I'll try in this other model. You've tried it, so
Yeah.
kind of what were the bumps in the road with that?
Yeah. We made all the mistakes so that no one else will.
Yeah,
Um, So the reason that we originally switched from setting even estimates to inspections was the reasoning that it's a lot easier to get a homeowner to just agree to an inspection rather than an
Right.
estimate right off the rip, right? Like, hey, you just talked to me 5 minutes ago, man. I'm not giving you 30 grand.
Yeah.
Um, so,
Yeah.
so setting an inspection first and foremost. And then we just found way too much fall off between the canvasser to the inspector than to the
Okay.
sales team again. It
Yeah.
just gave people way too many opportunities to get out of the funnel.
Yep. Yep. That makes sense. That totally makes sense. And what kind of KPIs do you have for the canvasser slash inspector? How many,
hmm
they're knocking X amount of doors. We expect X amount of appointments set for your salespeople.
Yep. So their standards are knocking, I believe it's 60 doors a day,
hmm
and they want to get 8 um, appointments flipped to the sales team per week.
Okay.
And out of that will come probably 4 actual demos, 4 or 5
Okay.
demos.
Okay. And then, traditionally, I think you're closing what, like 50, I think you were at like 50% on those, right?
Yeah, our net close rate is probably about 40%
Yeah,
true on
it's pretty
those.
just
But yeah.
average. Yeah. Okay. Very good. And then how are I mean, what are you calling them exactly now? Inspectors or canvassers, or what's the job title officially?
Yeah, inspectors. Yeah.
Inspectors. How are they compensated? Is it just all based on production, or do they get some kind of an hourly rate?
Yep. So they've got a high base hourly rate, and then they get paid. It's like 45 or $50 per flipped inspection to the sales team, and then a 1% override of net revenue for
Okay.
what they sell because we want them
Okay.
incentivized towards those big tickets.
Yeah. Um, People that would look to add these types of individuals, what kind of backgrounds are we talking about for these inspectors?
Yeah, I would highly recommend getting with a company like Culture Index for personality assessments.
Yeah.
It's been absolutely essential for us on the canvassing side.
Yeah.
As far as backgrounds, like it is really diverse. But if you think about the exact same as anyone would recommend for finding a sales team, it's very
Yeah.
similar.
Yeah.
Because we hire salespeople with no experience. So you're looking for people in the restaurant industry. You're looking for people that have been customer focused, um,
Yeah.
not retail. Those people traditionally don't have the type of grit necessary for the position.
Yeah.
But you're looking for things where people just like frankly like they have to work hard, and they were
Yeah.
probably hired into their current position without any experience.
Right.
So they know what it's like to really kind of learn and grow and grind.
Yeah.
And those people traditionally do quite well.
Yeah. You mentioned Culture Index, which I don't know anyone that hasn't had a great experience with them and using it in multiple ways throughout their business. But are there
Mhm.
certain profiles that tend to do well from Culture Index for this position in particular?
Yep. Rainmaker, Persuader, Architect, Trailblazer. Those are
Yeah.
4 off the top of my head that all do well.
Yeah, that's great. All right, so very good. So that's their background, and then what's the training process for these individuals? So you like, okay, we think you got a quality person.
hmm
What's the next step?
Yep. So they're going when they come in, and we just did an onboarding class of 10 people. They have an onboarding of 2 weeks with Trevor, as well as their managers, but mainly Trevor, where he's taking them, like you said, soup to nuts through everything. We're
Yeah.
teaching the product knowledge. They're doing shadowing. We're going through the scripting word for word.
Right.
And then at the end of those 2 weeks, then they have a final test. Part of it is written on obviously the knowledge that they learned, and then they
Yeah.
also they um, go A to Z through a presentation with the manager, from knocking
Okay.
on the door all the way to flipping the appointment. And if
Wow,
they
that's
don't
great.
pass both of those things with flying colors, they're not getting out in the field.
Wow. How many? So like of the 10 that you just went through this process, how long how many of the 10 will make it? How long will they average? The average person stay with you?
Yeah. So in this new model, I don't know the answer to that yet.
Right. Right. Right.
Um, I would say 6 to 7 will last, and out of those, let's say 7, 1 to 2 of them will be here probably 2 months, and then hopefully half of them will be here 6 months to a year.
Okay. All right. That's pretty good. And then, I mean, I guess you don't really know how many will potentially become a future salesperson for you, right? I mean, have any kind of
Yeah,
track record with that?
yeah, we've promoted 3 or 4 people from canvassing into sales.
Okay. All right. So yeah. So that's again, the position to be knocking on doors. I've got a buddy who's a local, well, he's a Missouri state politician, and that guy, the stuff he tells me, door knocking, you got to have some grit, basically.
Oh yeah.
You got to. So if you can do that, sitting down with someone and selling them a roof, it doesn't look so intimidating, I guess.
Oh no. No, when you do knocking doors for a living, especially heavy on commission, it creates a level of self-belief. When you can
Right.
learn to do that from no experience, or like it's really unmatched.
Yeah, yeah. Are there any other little nuggets we should know about canvassing before we kind of pivot to some other marketing stuff?
I would say the biggest thing, we talked about this a little bit the last time, is that a lot of companies want to go half in to canvassing, which I get. Like, it's a big thing, undertaking to take on.
Right.
But like, there has to be a dedicated manager.
Yeah.
What a lot of people think is like, okay, I'll just go hire some kids, teach them a script, and then it'll go well. And it won't. It's going to go terrible.
Right.
So you have to have a dedicated manager and someone who is good at persuading, leading from the front, and that in-house manager has to be willing to get out into the dirt themselves and go knock doors.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to have a team of people who believe in the process if the manager's hanging out in the office all day. That's not going to happen.
Right. If you were to implement this from scratch again, what are some, other than having someone to manage the process, the whole time, what are maybe 2 or 3 things you would go, we have to have this right for this to launch well?
Yep. So outside of having that proper person and having, say, a culture index to know that I'm hiring the right kind of people, then you're looking at the scripting and kind of the basic materials. So we have the scripting word for word for them to learn, because we have to hold tight to a system. Like, it's just like McDonald's or Chipotle delivering a consistent product.
Yep.
A lot of, I would say, especially for roofing, business owners that are that more natural salesman type, like, they don't have a script written down to save their life, right? Like, they just go in there in the home and they wing it and they sell because they're just them. Well, bad news, not everyone's you. Most everyone isn't. So you have to have that script and system really written out.
Yeah.
And then just the proper, just like company materials, like, hey, do they have a polo? Do they look professional? Do they feel good? Do they have an iPad? Those just like little basic details that can allow that person who has never knocked doors before to really feel confident, at least as much as they can.
Yeah. It's important. I mean, we talk all the time. Hey, are your people in? Do they look nice? You got to make sure your canvassers look nice too. You don't want some ragamuffin knocking on your door and like, I don't want anything to do with that guy if that's what he represents, right? It's those little things.
Oh, absolutely. I had a few months ago, just like you with AT&T, somebody, a competitor, knocking on my door as an internet company, and they looked like a borderline homeless person. And I was like, no, I'm not answering that door.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Very good. Let's pivot to your online. I know we talked about your SEO and how you manage that. I think actually when we talked previously, you said you were working on kind of building out location-based pages, right? Kind of especially. So how's that been going for you? Is that still something that's ongoing? What are some other things you're working on in SEO?
Yeah. So building out location-based pages is important because when you do a Google search, if you're looking for plumbing, and I'm in Toledo, I would look up either plumber near me, or I'd look up plumber Perrysburg, Ohio, and like that's how that search goes. So when you build out a location-based page, the title is literally plumbers in near me, or plumbers in Perrysburg, Ohio, or this particular type of HVAC trade in this particular city. So you're giving just a very clear sign to Google that like, hey, this is the most possible relevant page for this search. And that's a really common search. So the answer is like building those out will never end. Because there's just so many pages to be built out. And then as soon as you have it done for one main suburb, well, then you've got suburbs of there and little niches and things like that the really large companies don't go after, don't take the time to do because they just don't think it's worth it. So as a smaller outfit, you can really take it down to those sub niches that you can own. Outside of that, there's a lot of optimizing to the website. We're also building a lot of blog articles out. which AI and things like ChatGPT and copywriter AIs have been really, really helpful for.
Yeah.
I've been giving our SEO manager a lot of just like product research to do. So
Okay.
he's really learning, again, soup to nuts on everything related to roofing, windows, siding, you name it. And
Right.
then combining that with a lot of the AI automation, we've been able to build out some really thorough articles. So one, not only position ourselves as the expert to a homeowner for anyone who reads them.
Yeah.
A great book for that is called They Ask, You Answer by Marcus Sheridan,
Okay.
related to that for SEO. But outside of that, it's again just like capturing more search results. And then
Yeah.
the more relevant blogs that you promote, it also gives signals to Google of like, hey, they are active, they care about these trades, and it boosts up your rankings.
Yeah. Very good. On the PPC side, I said, and you do a bunch in Toledo. I think you had some struggles in the Detroit, your new market,
Oh yeah.
correct? Or okay,
Mhm.
what were some of the things you learned? Again, this is good because we get a lot of people that like, I want to branch into a new market, and
Mhm.
here's the thumps that come along. So what are some things you've learned on that side?
Yeah, on related to Detroit, I'm not going to try PPC in an area where I don't have an existing brand.
Right.
That's where we've learned. That's frankly what we've learned coming out of it. We had one launch that had a few critical errors in it initially. We
Yeah.
corrected those errors to give ourselves legitimately, and I still think the best possible shot to be successful, and it still faltered.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now I just buy my brand name up there, and I am letting that go until we have an established brand. So I'm not going to touch PPC up in Detroit for a few more years.
Okay. All right. What were some of the little errors that you tweaked that maybe someone would learn from that?
Yeah, so some of it was the territory targeted. Again,
Hmm.
being a little bit too wide.
Wide. Yeah.
Understanding which areas we will convert at, which ones are already kind of saturated with different roofers, where just
Yeah.
like there some competition's too entrenched, like it's just not worth going after that.
Right. Right.
Which are things that's kind of tough to learn until you just get into it.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
sadly, there's not too much to take away from that point. Um, and then outside of that, it's like Google's constantly changing, so you have to update your product offerings, making sure
Yeah.
particular subcategories are there. And it's just constantly really adjusting that strategy and staying up to date.
Yeah.
And then it's always an agency that's handling that. So, I mean, you just have to keep them under a fine tooth comb.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. You said you've learned a lot on the LSA side. Has been, I know it's been skyrocketing the cost, but you had a couple things that have kind of helped you not allow it get too out of control. I think a refund process you had mentioned to me, and also kind of capping the price on per lead so it wouldn't get wild.
Yeah. Google local service ads has been topsy-turvy. Things have even changed since you and I last talked,
Yeah.
in a big way. So originally, the adjustments that we made to our account were that the way Google wants you to bid leads, aka make more money from you, is they want you to put on a setting that says maximize my lead volume, which
Yeah.
basically says Google will tell you how much you pay them for that lead. Whatever price they decide to make up on their shadow algorithm, that's what you're going to pay.
What a
Obviously,
model.
not a great, yeah. And it worked for years.
Yeah.
Like when it first launched, when Brandon was managing it, it was
Yeah.
like a 3% cost of marketing. The same way pay-per-click used to be a few cents per click. And then
Right.
everyone got on it, and then they started jacking up the price. Same
Sure.
thing with local service ads.
Yeah.
So what I went in and I did is I put a cap on, instead of like, I said, I will only spend. And for me, it's like $200 or $250 per roofing lead.
Okay.
And if any lead Google's algorithm is going to tell me is going to cost more than that, like I'm just not going to spend that. Like that lead
Right.
can just go to somebody else.
Right.
And then it's different prices for different products.
Yeah.
And what I implemented when we talked last was a refund process. We just didn't have one as well in place that, okay, great. Like now we were just getting refunds for the bad leads or not optimal ones from Google in a way that we
Yeah.
weren't before. But since then, now Google has told everyone an AI is taking over that refund process and
Mm.
you cannot dispute it.
Oh. Okay.
Yep. So I had to crank down my cost per lead, knowing I'm not getting any refunds.
Refunds, yeah.
And so like last month I had one sale from Google Local
Wow.
Services
Yeah.
because where before I would do between 5 to 600K per year. Next year I'm only projecting 250 because frankly, like, I don't know.
Right.
I really hope that they get rid of this AI review, but
Right.
I doubt it.
So when you scale back on LSA, where does that money? You still need to spend that money, right, to generate leads. So where are you putting more marketing dollars into then? Is it just more SEO? Is it more what are you doing to compensate and find more leads?
Yeah, so going into next year, we have a few different key initiatives. One of them obviously being canvassing. We
Yeah.
are upping our TV. I'm going into streaming. We
Okay.
also have something we just launched. It's a customer care program where we are calling up all just our previous customers, and we're going out and doing a re-inspection of the work we did, as well as
Mm,
giving the homeowner a checklist on the rest of the house.
yeah.
We originally started this initiative about a month and a half ago,
Yeah.
strictly for customer service, to
Mhm.
have it be another just kind of like marketing pillar that we could say, here is a very specific way that we take better care of you than anybody else.
Yeah.
Um, but it turns out when you're not trying to sell people things, they actually might want to buy some things
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because everybody buys, we just hate being sold to.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
So it's actually been a much more effective lead generator than we thought it would be.
Yeah. Is that your salespeople doing those then?
No, so we have a very specific person who used to be a salesperson, and then they were working in production, and they were doing a ton of that insurance work,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of that's finally dried up. So
Yeah.
this is the position they're shifting to. They're just a great
Interesting.
people person.
And how often? So these are customers, right? You said you're calling behind. It's just like a quality control type thing. What are you? What like 6 months after a new roof? 3 years after? Well, what's the parameters on it?
We're going every year,
Every
so
year.
the customers are at least a year old.
Okay. All
And then we're
right.
calling them within 30 days before or after their anniversary. We're just like, hey, happy anniversary. As a part of your lifetime workmanship warranty, let's go give a reinspection.
Well, and then all of a sudden, oh, new windows. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
new door, right? That's
Yeah.
primarily the stuff that they're selling.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Oh, that's a good idea. That's a great idea. In the interest of kind of moving things along, you said TV, you're going to get into more streaming, which is exciting. Like that can be very targeted, right? So if like
Mm-hmm.
in Detroit, Farmington Hills, that's your bread and butter where you're having the most success. It's where you're located. You can just bombard that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how much, and you have the video now because you're doing the new video with the agency, right? Some of the new ads and stuff like that. So you'll be able to further utilize that because before you were just doing like cable news previously, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
And we got to the point where on the two stations we're on, we've kind of maxed out the cable side. So to go after a new audience, that's why we're getting into streaming, and we're specifically targeting our most profitable suburbs.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Any other? So it's iHeartMedia. Is that who you're working with on that side with the streaming stuff, or someone else?
We work with iHeartMedia on the radio streaming just for audio,
Yeah.
and then for the TV streaming, that's going through my agency.
Okay. Okay. And any with these spots, I know you're doing more branding, but you used to do a lot of
Mm.
call to action. You said I think probably too much at one point. But are you still mixing in some call to action with this new branding initiative?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And our call to actions aren't going away,
Yeah.
but we had the issue before I started with our radio where it was like 90% branding, 10% call to action. So it was good for getting the name out there, but it was a 70% cost. Like nobody picked up the phone.
Right. Right.
Um, and I was just looking at my marketing budget, like, man, this is untenable. So now the other agency kind of flip-flopped, and they did 90% call to action, 10%
Okay.
branding,
Yeah.
which really doesn't fit with what we want to do. We want to do more of a 60-40 mix. So if
Okay.
I've got a 30-second spot, probably 20 seconds of that is dedicated to branding and telling a story, and then
Right.
10 seconds of it is talking about that call to action.
Okay. And then the call to action you had success with was a financing message, right? And then some kind of a discount offer.
Yep. The one that's worked the best is a 12-month or 24-month no interest, no payments, and
Yeah.
then 65% off of labor.
Okay. Wow. And that's a combined message, or is that those two separate?
Hmm.
Okay.
Combined.
Wow. Okay. Wow. All right. That's pretty enticing. Can you tell me I don't have to pay for something and I'm getting a big 65% off? I'm sure that to me that's a great offer. But okay, very good. Very good. And then you said radio, you touched base on that earlier. You do the giveaways, right? You do
Hmm.
the like a $15,000 home makeover thing. I think you
Hmm.
said free windows you've done before, a free
Hmm.
roof. No
Yep.
door though. The door didn't work.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, we did that last winter, and that flopped like you wouldn't believe. I don't know if
Yeah.
it was the door or if it was the seasonality of it, but yeah, I'm not trying it again.
Okay. Okay. Very good. You mentioned me also. You would have done kind of been learning from having doing this a while, because a lot of people are always nervous about getting into TV and radio because it's
Hmm.
expensive and you need to do it,
Hmm.
as we talked earlier, for months to give it a real shot. But you would have done it 10 years earlier if you could have.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And what are some lessons for people that are new to it and they're like, okay, it's gonna be a lot of money. What are some things they should really know getting into it?
Yeah, so the first thing, and this is something that we're actually like evolving through now,
Yeah.
we succeeded despite having a decently generic message. If someone's smaller and they don't have 20 to 30K they can spend on a station in a month, then they have to have a unique message. Like whatever the rest of the competition on TV is doing, your ad better not look or sound like that. I know
Right.
like it feels professional, but like it's just going to get lost in the noise. You don't have a chance.
Yeah.
So you have to talk to someone who can actually produce a more unique spot with a little
Yeah.
bit more of a personal feel, and it doesn't feel heavily overproduced.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I would say someone's got to be able to invest in it for about 6 months.
Yeah.
And for the first 4 or 5, just say, hey, whatever return I get is what I get,
Right.
and
Right.
be willing to stick it out.
Yeah. And the other thing we didn't talk is when those spots need to be, right. Drive time, radio, TV
Yep.
is when people are plopped down and watching the news, right?
Yep. Yeah. TV right now, we do morning and evening news strictly, and then we're going to be
Mhm.
getting into live sports as well.
Oh, okay. That's exciting. All right. Very
Hmm.
good. Very good. Um, really appreciate all your time. I know we've gone over what I kind of expected, so I know you got lots of stuff going on. Just kind of wrapping up, what other changes do you kind of anticipate in marketing for you guys in 2025, and how that'll push you towards your goals?
Yeah, we are having an exceptionally local focus with everything we're
Mhm.
doing.
Yeah.
Obviously, private equity is buying up roofing companies in every market. I'm
Yeah.
focused on doing the work that they can't do. So
Right.
we're partnering with local high schools, like really kind of like taking over football fields, getting
Yeah.
involved in like youth soccer programs. If there's a parade, like I want to be involved in it.
That's great.
Um, it's not the easy go pay someone, buy a lead type stuff, but that's exactly why in the long term it's going to work. And
Yeah.
luckily, as a company, we can afford to have another 20, 30, 50-year view.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. And it also, I mean, there's just, I mean, being in the youth sports world right now, it's nice to see those companies support those programs. I've got a buddy who owns an appliance chain here locally, and he's done that and
Hmm.
has made a killing off it because they did it before anyone else got into it. So
Hmm.
that if you show people you care about the things they care about, it's funny how they'll
Yeah.
reciprocate that, right? So that's interesting. I'm glad you brought that up because we tell a lot of small guys that's something. Step one, you don't have a lot of money, but you can do that, right? It takes time to make those calls and do all that stuff, but it leads to returns.
Yeah. Yeah. And the biggest focus there is you don't want to just have like one sign in a ballpark. You want
Right.
to have your brand in many areas.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like it's one of those like you can't help but notice it kind of thing. And then
Exactly.
you don't want to have one sponsorship in one part of town and then one across the way and then another one all the way 30 miles over. Like really focus until you're like, I don't think I could get any more awareness out of this area,
Right.
and
Right.
then move. But don't move
Yeah.
until that.
That's great. No, that's really good. That's really good. Yeah. You don't need to do 12 high schools all over the metro. Get that one,
Yeah.
that one school district or whatever.
Mhm.
Very good. So what's the future look like for integrity here? What's the 2 to 3 year plan? What's the 10-year plan?
Yeah. So this coming year, we haven't even mentioned, but we're starting up a B2B division. So
Oh,
because
okay.
we've got a great brand here in Toledo, so we're looking to leverage that for additional
Sure.
revenue streams. So B2B is going to be a big part of that. And then it's really just cracking the nut up in Detroit
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
really breaking through, because there's a huge top end ceiling on the other side of that up in Detroit. So
Yeah.
we really don't have a need to expand until that grows to be a
Yeah.
$20 million site by itself.
Yeah. Are you
And then
just
you're looking
focusing?
at additional spots. Go ahead.
Yeah. Are you no? Are you just still focusing on Farmington Heights there? Are you going to start slowly kind of leaching out in the other communities to it, or do you want to make sure you got that one well
Yeah.
saturated before expanding?
Yeah, I want to make headway in Farmington Hills first.
Or Farmington Hills, excuse me.
Again, you're fine. And at least with the branding stuff, but we're canvassing all over the city.
Okay. Okay. Very interesting. Just kind of last question. What's it like being a part of the CertainPath family? You got to see it because you guys were making tons of changes. We've been members for over I think 12 years or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
When you started in 2019 is when you guys really started digging into the processes and the core things that you got to do to be a successful company. So what's your perspective of being a part of the organization?
Yeah, I got really lucky because when I started in 2019, it was actually a few years before that.
Yeah.
That that Adam, Brandon, and Caleb did all the hard work of really just listening, frankly, to CertainPath.
Yeah.
And it was funny, like I went to like a conference or two in 2019, and I was like, these guys are just saying the things we already know. Like this doesn't seem that impactful. They're like, yeah, because we're doing what they told us to do. That's why.
Yeah.
And so it's been really helpful. It's been a big change.
Yeah, and it's nice.
Good.
I mean, getting that outside voice. Right? I know you're in some other coaching stuff. It's just if you're a business owner, you can't be on an island, right? If you're driving a business,
it's a
a
nightmare.
business owner. Yeah.
Even though as a marketing director, if I couldn't talk to other marketing people, I would pull my hair out.
Yeah. It's a lot to do, a lot to lead. And anyways, Austin, it's been a lot of fun talking with you. I appreciate you always being so willing to give me your time and respond to emails. I've learned a lot and look forward to chatting with you soon. Best of luck moving forward, and I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, that sounds great. Have fun with the kids and all their sports.
The Successful Contractor podcast is part of the CertainPath family. CertainPath builds successful home service businesses and has for over 25 years. We do it by providing contractors with a proven path to success, professional coaching, software solutions, and a member community of 1,000 plus strong. Doubling your sales with a 20% net profit and an inspiring company culture is all possible. Let us show you the way. With CertainPath, success is made certain. Visit www.mycertainpath.com or call 888-909-6604 for more information.